What is up, YouTube? It is Doc here, Docky Style Gaming, and I am here with another Tiny Tina's Wonderland video for you all today, where we are going to be taking a look at a bunch of features in the game, like the co-op, spellcasting, multi-classes, and so much more, along with talking about some brand new footage and info that we're about to be getting literally tomorrow. So without wasting any more time, let's hop straight into this video. So for starters, let's hop right into this new info that we just got literally today from IGN, where Tiny Tina's Wonderland is going to be their monthly game that they cover, meaning starting tomorrow, they're going to be covering all things Tiny Tina Wonderland and getting a bunch of exclusives that you'll most likely only be able to get from their channel. So you already know I'll be covering any new information that we get from that tomorrow and going forward as well. So for those people who are still curious about what all Tiny Tina Wonderland has, along with some of the gameplay, that'll be the best place for you to find out about it, or just stick around to the channel and wait for me to upload my breakdown on it. They had their own Borderlands cast and some more stuff post-launch, so they'll probably be covering this game for a while as well. So I can't wait to see what all is going to come out for tomorrow and just going forward. There's actually quite a bit of info on their site, so again, if you haven't checked out anything on the game, their site is honestly pretty packed with just about everything. But I will be breaking down some of it today, as well as some gameplay mechanics as well. So let's hop into that right now, actually. Let's go over the brand new multi-class feature that will be in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. So currently in the game, there are 6 different classes, which don't worry, I will be breaking all of them down in a separate video, but we have the Berserker, the Clawbringer, the Graveborn, Spellshot, Spore Warden, and Stabomancer. But what's a bit unique about Wonderlands in comparison to Borderlands is that you can now have 2 classes in one. So for an example, think of Borderlands 3. Picture having the class of Moze, but also the ability of Zane as well. Well, with the multi-class system in Wonderlands, that's essentially what they'll let you do. If you're playing with a character class like the Berserker but want to put on one of the companion classes like Clawbringer, Graveborn, or Spore Warden, you can also have a companion fighting alongside you while also being able to use your Berserker abilities. And what's awesome is that you can essentially mix and match between all of these classes. So the build possibility has already gone up to the max in comparison of what Borderlands 3, or honestly any other Borderlands, was able to do. Now on their site, they did say that you're still going to want to pick and choose your skill points wisely, because you won't be able to fill up both skill trees, but ultimately it's about finding the right balance and finding out what build fits your playstyle the most. So ultimately you'll have your primary class that you select along with your secondary class, and essentially again it states to pick them wisely. Now heading over to another new feature in this game, we're going to be taking a look at the spellcasting. It talks about how when bullets aren't enough, essentially you can light them up with dashes of magic. Now your spells do have a short cooldown, but it does say that any class can equip any spell that drops from a piece of loot. And honestly, they recommend swapping between them to see what fits your loadout the best. Now they also said that spells have a wide variant of properties, such as basic attacks like fireballs, magic missiles, and summoning hydras, or conjuring meteors from the sky, raining poison beams of death, and so much more. They said that some spells have multiple charges, which can allow for continuous casting, or have reset cooldowns on critical hits and other things like that. It also says that most spells have some sort of elemental damage, while others are meant to provide more utility by protecting allies, debuffing enemies, or other things of that sort. And what's also pretty dope about spellcasting is that this isn't really a replacement for guns. You'll still have your guns, but you'll also have the ability to spellcast. Now, next we're going to be taking a look at a new mechanic that seems familiar and similar, but is actually quite different, and that is the melee combat. Now, if you played any other Borderlands games, you know what melee combat is. You essentially just punch an enemy, and that's pretty much the extent of it. But in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, there is so much more to melee combat. On top of slashing, stabbing, bashing, or walloping, as the site describes, you'll also have the ability to stagger enemies backwards with your melee attack, giving you a chance to get your bearings and reload your next clip, or use any other abilities that you have. Now, what's also cool about the melee mechanic is if you are just outside of striking distance, you'll perform a heroic leap and glide to them, making sure that you still hit the enemy rather than just whiffing all of your melee attacks. And then on top of that, it says if you ever want to just let loose for a few swings, you can tap the melee button repeatedly for a continuous sequence of slashes, almost like additional combo combos on top of your basic melee attack. Now, it did say that melee damage is meant to complement your firearms and spells and not replace them, but as you collect more powerful melee gear, you'll find weapons that provide various benefits whenever you connect a melee attack, such as reduce your cooldowns or refund your ammo on your guns. It then says if you find the right melee weapon and effects that synergize with your greatest strengths, strategic melee attacks can be key to maximizing your build's full potential. Now, moving over to another feature, and it is called the Overworld. It's described as Tiny Tina's painstakingly crafted representation of the Wonderlands in tabletop form. It says the Overworld is a massive, expansive map that connects many hotspots of the Wonderlands. And when you're not engaged in first-person combat or exploring new areas up close, you'll go into third-person, bird-eye view of the land of the Overworld. Now, it also says that while you're in this mode, your Fate Maker will essentially turn into the coolest-looking bobblehead there ever was. It also says handle with care because there's no telling what Tiny Tina will do if you break one of her oh-so-precious miniatures. Now, when in the Overworld, it says if you dare to venture off the beaten path, you can find all types of goodies, including extra chests full of gold, hidden collectibles like lucky dice, and pieces of buff-granting shrines. On top of that, there's even entirely optional areas with their own quest lines. It also says watch out because you might catch the attention of an enemy itching for a random encounter. If you're not in the mood to fight, you can simply run away or punch out your attacker before they reach you, but there is loot to be had if you bravely choose to fight this random encounter head on. Now, if I'm being real, the Overworld sounds dope. It's almost like a whole nother mini game on top of the base game. A more classic Bunkers and Badass / Dungeons and Dragons style game mode on top of what you already have in the game. Turning your characters into bobblehead style miniatures as you go across the board, fighting different enemies, getting encounters, and getting more loot on top of that as well. Now, lastly, when we go over some of the features in the game before we wrap it up, we will take a look at the co-op. Now, it says that you will be able to play with up to 4 players in co-op on Tiny Tina's Wonderland, but the more players that are in your group, the tougher the enemies will be, so it does scale like that as well. There will also be 2-player split screen and 4-player split screen on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. Now, similar to the last Borderlands games, there are 2 different styles of co-op in game. There's cooperation and coOppetition. Now, when it comes to cooperation, all of your loot is instance, guarantee that you'll get whatever reward for every encounter, and your teammates can't accidentally jack your stuff. All of the gear and enemies will also scale to each of your levels. Now, coOppetition, on the other hand, is the opposite. All loot that drops, anybody can grab. So if you're not fast enough, you might not get a single piece of loot if you have a teammate that's snatching up all of the best gear in game. Or honestly, if you just want to be that guy, you could be the one snatching up all the gear and letting none of your other teammates get anything after beating a certain encounter. Now, also, while in coOppetition, enemies will scale to the level of the host player. So all of your teammates who are under leveled will have a harder time trying to survive if you're in coOppetition if the host is a much higher level. But that's pretty much all of the new mechanics that will be featured in Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Now, there's still a lot more to go over, like some of the new enemy types in the game, all of the classes in the game, and so much more. But I just wanted to get a brief breakdown and rundown of some of the new stuff that players can expect, along with talking about some of the new stuff that we're going to be seeing literally tomorrow. Tiny Tina gets ready to drop on March 25th, so literally in about 2 months, we're finally going to get our hands on Wonderlands. Now, like I said at the beginning of this month, I will be covering this game non-stop on the channel leading up to the launch and post-launch as well. But that's all I really got for this video today. I do, like I said, have a lot more Tiny Tina Wonderland videos planned, so let me know what you want to see next in regards to this game and if you're hyped for the game. Other than that, I am going to wrap it up, so like always, be sure to join the Discord if you haven't. Link to that is in the video description, along with a link to the Twitch channel as well, because I stream on Twitch every Tuesdays and Fridays, and sometimes sprinkle a couple random streams in throughout the week. So if you haven't caught a single one of my streams, I highly recommend you go follow the Twitch channel. We're getting close to 1,000 followers on there, so that would be pretty dope if we could hit that. Other than that, that's all I got, so I will catch you all in the next one. Thank you all for watching, and like always, I'm out here, guys. Thanks for the love, thanks for the subs, peace.